Welcome to the Dom Sub Devotion Podcast.
Every episode of Dom Sub Devotion shares the lessons learned from our experience of love, devotion, and desire inside of our 24/7 Dom Sub marriage.
We've found that dominance and submission is more than just a kink. For us, it's been a path to deep intimacy and desire that lasts over the long term. We share our experience through this podcast to be the example that we didn't have when we started down this path, and to help you find your way to a dynamic that works in your real life.
You can learn more about us and our courses and offerings in the show notes and at infinitedevotion.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Dom Sub Devotion. On today's episode, I'm going to speak directly to women, but this will also be tremendously valuable if you are a man who wants to lead a woman into submission and into what it is to be feminine. We're going to talk today about what feminine energy really is, because this is something that I see so mixed up, so turned upside down. I see it being taught by people who have really no clue what they're talking about. I see coaches who are trying to coach something that they really can't understand. And it's such an important and valuable thing. It's so special to really understand this. And the only way that I've really been able to understand it in the way that I'm going to share it with you here today is because I have led Dawn into what it is to be feminine for her. So we're going to talk about what feminine energy is. We're also going to talk about what inverted polarity is. And we're going to talk about why people get so stuck and so confused about this, and why it is so difficult in today's world for a woman to really know, feel, and be, quote unquote, in her feminine. I have so many women that come to me, women who see Dawn, who meet Dawn, who see what it's like for her to be her, and they want more of that. They want the freedom, the surrender, the relaxation. But most of them are stuck, and they feel stuck, and the reason that they're stuck is because they are in an inverted polarity, because they are essentially living in what they might call their masculine energy. They aren't in their masculine energy. They're just really kind of confused about what it even means to be in their feminine, in their masculine. All of these words, I'm going to try to unfuck all of this language for you today. Because when you grasp what I'm going to share here, it will give you a pathway to finding the same kind of freedom, aliveness, surrender. If what you want is submission, submission flows naturally out of a state of feminine expression. So this is going to show you what feminine energy is. It's also going to show you how to recognize and feel inversion, how to see it, and how to return back to the surrendered state. So let's go ahead and dive in here. And where I want to start is looking at what is feminine energy. One of the biggest pieces of pushback that I get when I talk about feminine energy versus masculine energy is this notion that people have that when I say feminine, I mean woman. And when I say masculine, I mean man. That could not be farther from the truth. All men have feminine energy. All women have masculine energy. If we didn't, we wouldn't survive. So I want to start with that because you need to break the notion that every time I say feminine, I mean woman, and all of the associations of what feminine means. So let's use this language for the sake of what we're going to talk about here today. When I say feminine energy, I mean receptivity. I mean what you take in, what comes into your system, into your being. We all receive. We all receive. And so feminine energy is our receptivity. Masculine energy is our outwardness. It's what we give. It's what we put out into the world. So all women have masculine energy. All men have masculine energy. But there's a difference that we have to really get clear with here. Feminine energy is receptivity. Feminine expression is when a person is living in a way that they lead with their feminine energy, where that's their primary or their core sense of being. So you cannot try to be feminine, you can't try to be masculine. It's not about that at all. The only thing that you can really do is recognize, what are you leading from? So if you're a woman who wants to be more in your feminine, you don't have to put on flowery hats. You don't need to try to perform softness. What you need to do is understand what it means to live in a feminine expression, which is what will come naturally to you if you do the work that we talk about in a lot of these other episodes. I'm not going to go real deep into this today, but the reason that we don't live in alignment with our natural expression is because of fear. It's because of pain. It's because of trauma. We've talked about this at length. You can go back and listen to any number of the past episodes that we've done talking about what it takes to unwind those things. But for the sake of what I'm sharing here today, what's important to understand is if you are naturally a feminine being, which most women are, you are going to receive, you're going to lead with your feminine energy. You're going to receive first, and you're only going to give out of what you have received. It's that simple. Now, women, physiologically, biologically, are receptive physically. You're receptive in the body. So you are leading with the receptivity to the world around you. What's going on around you? And how do you feel about it? You give back, you don't give out of doing first. You give out of, how do I feel about what is happening? That's what it is to live in feminine expression. So in order to live in feminine expression, we have to be able to have you in a place where you can receive before you give. Now, the inverted expression for a woman is going to look like the same thing as the natural expression for a masculine being, for a man who is living in a masculine expression, which is doing things first and then reaping the rewards. So do you see the difference? Masculine expression does and receives. Feminine expression receives and then gives. So one of the things that people ask me is, so a woman who's in her feminine, she just sits around all day and does nothing? No, not at all. Can a woman who's in a feminine expression have a job? Of course she can. It's not about not doing anything. It's about, where are you moving from? So more on that to come. But let's go a little bit deeper into feminine expression first. Feminine expression is the opposite of performance. There's no space for obligation in a feminine expression. For a woman who's living in her feminine essence, everything that she gives, everything she does, all of how she loves, all of how she nurtures, everything is coming from a place of fullness. So we will see people who are trying to perform femininity use words like radiance and gratitude and softness and vulnerability, and you can slow down your speech and you can calm your nervous system and you can try to act out this role of femininity. But these are ways that you will naturally feel if you are only giving from fullness. So again, this is not about what you do in order to earn love, to get rewards. This is about being able to be still enough to receive first, filling up your life with joy, with pleasure, but also noticing when what you receive hurts, when it's painful, when it's uncomfortable, when it is unsatisfactory to you. If that's what you're receiving, you have to let that fill you and move you. So, performative femininity doesn't make space for things like anger. It doesn't make space for things like rage. It doesn't make space for what we might call negative emotion. But real femininity is going to have the full range of emotion because you are going to be feeling in response to what's going on around you. And if you are in a situation, in a relationship, in a job that is what it's giving to you is pain and stress and fear-inducing, whatever's going on around you, you're going to feel in response to that. And that is a part of feminine expression. It's an important part of feminine expression. So you can't perform femininity, especially if it expects you to wash out part of the natural range of human emotion. There's a lot of rage. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of grief and sadness in a lot of what a natural feminine expression looks like. What a woman living in her feminine is not all soft and flowers and romance. It's not. The world can be a pretty rough place for women, with the lack of integrity, with disembodied men, with work and career situations that are less than fulfilling. All of these are things that you'll feel as a woman who is receiving first. But the reality is that most women are not living in a feminine expression. Most women are not leading with their feminine energy. They're not leading with their receptivity. And the reasons why we could go on all day. But most women are living their life in an inverted polarity. So what do I mean when I say an inverted polarity? This is what you'll hear some women say or call the masculine shield. It's what you'll hear some people call just living in their masculine. It's also what leads women to be and feel controlling, or like they need to be in control, or being afraid to let go of control. And it's the cause of a lot of burnout. Because anytime we're not living in our natural, in alignment with our natural core essence, it's going to exhaust us. We're going to feel unfulfilled. We're going to feel lost in some way. And I could go, and will in a future episode, go down this entire same path for men. But one of the things that you hear so consistently from women when you do the kind of work that I do is this overwhelming sense of being burned out. absolutely exhausted, feeling like they have to hold and control and manage everything in their lives. I could not even name how many times a day I hear women telling me that they feel exhausted and burned out. And my first instruction or guidance to any woman that feels that way will always be, slow down. But the reality is, a lot of times it doesn't feel like you can slow down because, again, the vast majority of people are living out of alignment with their natural core essence. And for a woman, that means that she is living in a way where she's leading with her masculine energy. She's leading with her doing rather than leading with her receiving. Now, this comes very naturally to men. This is fulfilling to men. This is rewarding to men. This is why when women talk about or start considering giving up control, they think, well, this is going to overwhelm my man if he has to take over everything and lead everything. That there's no way he can handle it. This comes naturally to men. It's burnout inducing and exhausting for a woman because it's not in alignment with your natural core essence. So let's look at what it means to live in an inversion. The easiest way to identify this is, where in your life are you in a doing to get energy? When I say doing to get, I mean, where are you acting first? Taking an action, doing something to try to get something to happen in the way that you want it to happen. Where are you putting yourself out in an attempt to manage or control outcomes? That is the most indicative place of where a woman would be living in an inverted polarity, in an upside down polarity. Controlling your man. Having to have a stranglehold on how every little thing in your life goes. For Dawn, a lot of this showed up, as you have probably heard if you've listened for a while, around her body and food and fitness. She was always trying to force herself into a body that looked how she thought it needed to look, and she had to eat perfectly, she had to work out perfectly, everything had to be done so that she would get to where she needed to get to. And not only did she not get there, she burned herself out, she injured herself, she made herself sick. Now, this shows up in work for some women, it shows up in relationships, it can show up in friendships, it can show up in parenting. Obviously, it can show up in the way that you handle exercise and food and nutrition and fitness. Where in your life it shows up doesn't really matter. The fact that it's there is evidence of something. There's a reason that you are operating out of this inverted polarity. And it's usually fear based on past pain and an avoidance of a future that you are afraid of because you're afraid of the past repeating itself. But it's very easy to see when you start looking at all of the places that you might be in a doing to get energy. It's also very easy to notice because this shows up in women as anxiety or stress. It shows up as resentment. It shows up as a loss of libido, a disconnection from your body, like a numbness. And usually this is in a response to some sort of an emotional experience that is causing you to be in some sort of a survival mode. Meaning you're living most of your life in a fight, flight, or freeze state. And it's important to know, if you're a woman listening to this, or if you're a man listening to this and you see this in your woman, or as a woman you see this in yourself, it's normal. It's a absolutely normal, natural part of being a human. It's almost impossible to avoid. Why do I say that it's almost impossible to avoid? Because really from the time that you are born, as a woman, you are taught to do things to get results. Our world doesn't train and condition very many women to relax, to receive, to be given to. No, it's you go to school, you have to be a good girl, you have to get good grades, you have to act this way in order to get love and affection. You may have to fend for yourself if you have parents who are less than attentive. There's a lot of ways that young girls are hurt, especially by men and by masculine structures like education systems, religion, government, overly tyrannical structures, and overly tyrannical men, wounded men, which are really men who are in their own inversions. Story for a future episode. The point is that young girls are very frequently hurt. And then those hurts keep on playing out throughout their life. And so to let their guard down feels very unsafe. And so it's very normal to build this wall where you live in a way that you take care of yourself. I can do it all by myself. I don't need anyone's help. I don't want to rely on a man. The number of women who come to me and tell me that their mothers told them never to rely on a man breaks my heart. Because now these young girls have become women and they are dating or they're married and they wonder why their relationships aren't working out well. And how could they, when you have deep in that programming, that conditioning that men aren't trustworthy, never rely on a man? Well, how could you open yourself up to be loved? Breaks my heart. So there are all these markers of inverted polarity, where a woman is essentially got her walls up. She's taking care of herself. This is the strong, independent woman who don't need no man. This is the outcome of the later waves of feminism. I don't have any hate for feminism. I believe that the equality of opportunity, which was the original goal of feminism, is absolutely valuable and important and a human right. But when that turns into winning at the expense of, it's an entirely different thing. That's as political as you will ever hear me get on this podcast. And really the point being, we need to keep politics out of it and listen to and get back to our natural state that exists underneath all of this conditioning and programming and all these things that we believed. So it's natural that women live in an inversion. And it is also something that has a cost. There's an emotional, physical, mental expense to living this way. And again, I mentioned loss of libido, but there's also the challenge that a lot of women face around being able to trust, being able to receive. If your mental framework as a woman is, I have to grind my way to every outcome, I have to work for everything, I have to earn and deserve everything, you're not in a framework where you can really let yourself receive. Now, before I continue and start talking through how we undo these inversions and help you come back into feminine expression, I want to take a quick moment to mention that on October 1st of 2025, I'm going to be opening up enrollment for our third round of our course, Communion. Communion is a course that I created for women because I was sick and tired, frankly, of the ways that women were being led astray by teachers, by people who didn't know what it actually means to live this way, who are teaching versions of it that feel good to them, but who have never really actually experienced the freedom of letting go of control. So I created this course, and I call it sometimes an anti-course because it isn't about teaching you the information that you need to know. Communion is a 6-month-long container, and it is a combination of teaching you what you need to know and giving you practices, specific things that you get to do on a day-to-day basis. So you have an experience of what this feels like to shift out of that masculine expression, out of your masculine energy into a feminine expression, leading with your femininity rather than leading with your masculinity. And this takes place over 6 months. Why is it so long? Because this takes some time. This takes some patience. You spent likely your whole life up until now learning how to protect yourself, how to take care of yourself, how to do it all on your own. And you've built these walls, you've built this fortress, you've built this masculine shield. And it doesn't come down overnight. So it's a 6-month-long container. And my promise to every woman who shows up for it, who does the practices, who works on herself for the 6 months, is that she will emerge from communion a changed woman who really knows what it is to be living in her feminine expression. One last thing on communion. Why is it important that this is being led by a man? Shouldn't a woman be teaching a woman about what it means to be a woman? There's a very important little nuance that I want you to catch here together. And that is that in order for a woman to teach or lead a container, a course, anything like this, the act of teaching that course, the act of coaching, the act of holding the space, creating the container, is putting her in an initiatory role. She's doing to get. So a woman cannot lead a course without being in her masculine energy. That's the definition of it. And so if a woman has to take herself out of the very thing that she is teaching in order to teach it, it cannot be coming through completely clean. This is why Dawn does not participate in these courses anymore, because of what it was taking her out of and taking her away from. So when I teach communion, when I give these practices, when I walk you through the process of coming back into connection with your body, I am able to do that as a man who has a deep, intimate understanding of what this is, because of how I have led my wife through this over a period of almost 7 years. And my deep surrender to her, my deep openness to her, the way that I feel her so intimately, has taught me what I need to know to be able to offer this and guide you as a woman through this. If you have more questions about communion, you can click the link in the show notes or just send us an email through our website, infinitedevotion.com. You can find the contact page and send us a message there. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I've built this course to be something that is as affordable as I can possibly make it, so it can reach as many people as it can, because I am so passionate about this. I believe so much in the value that a woman brings to the world when she is able to come out of all of that, the fortress, out from behind her masculine shield, her masculine energy, and into a sense of connection with her own body, into communion, into true union with herself. And that's my goal in this course, is to help you find your way to that for you, in whatever way that looks for you. Back to the episode here, and it's actually a perfect transition, because a lot of people come to us, most people find us because they want to experience dominant submissive dynamics in their relationship. And there is a perfect correlation between feminine expression, leading with your feminine energy, and submission. When a woman is able to be in her feminine energy, when she is receiving first, when she's being filled up, she's feeling full, she's feeling alive, she's full of energy, she's already in a surrendered state. You cannot be in control and be receiving first. You cannot be in control and also be surrendered. So submission, inside of a power exchange dynamic, is the act of letting go of control and giving yourself over to be led by someone else. That also cannot flow from a state where you are in control, where you are in fear, where you are trying to shape and do things right to get a certain result. So submission is a natural state for a woman who's rooted in her feminine energy, who's leading with her receptivity. Because to get to that place, to be that free, she's already overcome the need to force, to do, to control. She's already in a state of receptivity. She's already able to let go and follow, to trust life. Things that we talk about in dominant submissive dynamics, like obedience, like giving up control, like following. These are things that move naturally in a woman who is come out from behind that shield. And it allows her to follow, to submit in a way that feels freeing to her, where she knows that being in control is exhausting to her. And so she's able to be out of control and to speak up for her needs, to share what she's experiencing, and to create the conditions for herself where she feels safe to follow, to submit, to obey. And to do it from a place that's not performance, where she's not acting out a role or trying to play the part of sub to look like a good sub. A lot of women approach submission if they're still in this masculine expression, in this inverted feminine. A lot of women approach submission like they're trying to do it right. They're trying to be a good sub. They're trying to obey perfectly. They're trying to do it because they're trying to get something back. They're trying to influence some outcome, to maybe make sure that their dominant never leaves them, to make sure that their dominant is pleased with them because they need him to be that way in order for her to feel safe, whatever it is. That will burn her out on her submission 100% of the time. But being able to approach submission from a state of surrender, from a state of receptivity, from a state of the actions of submission coming out of your sense of feeling full, feeling a desire to give of yourself because of how you feel in the surroundings that you're in. That allows submission to be freeing. It allows it to help you come alive. And a lot of women that come to me talk about how they want to submit, but they can't let go of control. They're afraid of losing control. And this is where it's essential for a woman to heal those old wounds around trust and to undo the confusion between what it means to live in devotion versus what it means to live in obligation. The path to freedom for a woman who craves something different than this exhausting, burnt out existence that she's living isn't about finding the right way to do independence. It's about being able to let go of control, to trust, and to fully be yourself, to never act out of obligation, to never perform, to never be something you're not, or to tolerate something that doesn't really make you come alive. The path to freedom, the path to surrender, the path to feeling like and living in whatever feminine energy, feminine expression looks like for you, is letting go of control. The very thing that terrifies you the most. Letting go of your need to manage everything. So many women that I talk to have this feeling that if they don't manage or control everything, if they don't look after everything, if they don't do everything right, that everything around them is just going to come tumbling down. And that is not a place from which submission, surrender, freedom, relaxation, inner peace will ever come. And one of the most destructive and painful places that this shows up for women is the need to earn love. The feeling like you have to do it right in order to be worthy of being loved, be worthy of being chosen. And so this keeps you stuck in a framework of needing to control your actions, to control yourself, to control your partner, to create the conditions where you can be loved and be lovable. The real freedom comes for a woman when she can receive structure, where she can receive direction, where she can receive love, and to be given these things in a way that is loving to her. She can receive them in a way that is loving to her. She can speak up for herself when control, when structure feel off, when they feel out of integrity, when she feels that something isn't right with the way she's being led. She doesn't just follow because she's afraid of saying no. She speaks up for herself. She uses her voice. This is why it's so essential for a woman in submission to have a strong voice. This isn't about shutting yourself down. It's about trusting yourself enough to speak up so that you don't have to have your guard up all the time. Because real submission isn't collapse. It's an expansion into your truest self. So I want to close this episode out with some practical advice and guidance for women who want to start down this path. And again, if you want a very deep dive in this, if you want some guidance on this and a process that you can follow to really come into what it means to be feminine for you, take a look in the show notes at our course Communion. But let's talk about a couple of things that you can do right now, today. Take a look at your life. Do a little inventory. Where are you doing to get? Where are you approaching life, love, work, parenting, friendship, any part of your life where you are doing to get? You're trying to control outcomes through your actions. I want you to practice. Give yourself an opportunity to practice this. What would it be like to live in a receiving to give state? Can you let yourself not need to do anything and to see what it feels like to let yourself receive first? Can you even let yourself go there? There's an indispensable first step to this entire process, and that is slowing down your life. We talk about this in our course, Submissive Foundations. We've done entire podcast episodes about it. We've done a lot of writing about it. Slowing down is indispensable for a woman who is looking to start shifting this energy out of the inverted masculine into the receptive feminine. You cannot keep grinding away every bit of your energy and expect yourself to be able to receive. A woman living in a feminine expression and a man living in a masculine expression are both being filled up all of the time and giving from overflow. If you feel empty, it's a sign that you are pouring yourself out rather than letting yourself be filled up. Remember this analogy of the bathtub. In a bathtub, there are two ways you can get water out. It can either come out of the drain in the bottom, or it can flow over the top when it gets full. So, is your giving coming because you have the drain open on your life? Are you giving as a woman because you don't have any boundaries, because you don't stand up for yourself, because you don't look out for yourself, because you are trying to earn love, because you are trying to get something? Can you close the drain? Can you allow yourself to be given to maybe stop doing for a little while? Maybe less commitments, maybe less obligations, maybe pulling back from some volunteering, maybe pulling back from some things you've committed yourself to, and slowing down enough so you can be living a life that's filling you up on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, where you spend some time doing things that you like, that you enjoy, just for yourself. Because when you are full, then you can give from overflow. One other piece of practical advice for a woman who's looking to start shifting this energy in her life is your discernment is incredibly important. Where are you giving your time? To whom are you surrendering? When you drop your walls, all of these ways that you've controlled, all of these ways that you've tried to earn and do and get, you're going to find that you will come into a very natural receptive state, meaning you're going to feel a lot. So being discerning with where you are receiving from is incredibly important. If you continue to put yourself in places where what you are receiving is painful, it is toxic, it is negative, if you are consuming a whole bunch of news and social media content every day that is putting you in your head and causing you to live in this defensive survival state, it's going to be really hard to let your walls come down, to shift this energy. So your safety mechanism as a woman living in a surrendered state is your discernment. Does it feel good to read this? Does it feel good to be around this person? Does it feel good to submit to this man? Does it really feel good? Not just, do I think this is going to get me what I want? Now you're back in the old thing. Does it feel good to me? That's your discernment. That's how you keep yourself safe. It's the combination of being able to be discerning with where you receive from and being able to use your voice. And that is how devotion to self plays into feminine expression. When I say devotion to self, I mean a commitment to you, to put yourself first, to take care of you in a way that doesn't require independence. It's actually a very soft, surrendered, easy place to be. When you have full ownership of your no, devotion to yourself is very easy without having to live from behind walls. You just are not going to tolerate anything that does not feel right to you. So again, this is a very normal thing for women to go through. It's an extremely common thing. I don't believe I've ever met a woman who hasn't gone through this or isn't in this. My encouragement to you is to practice these couple of tips that I've given you and realize that feminine expression, femininity, is not something that you can perform. It's not something that you need to do. It's not somewhere that you need to get to. If it's your natural state, it will come naturally to you. It will just take some time. It'll take some patience. It'll take some devotion to yourself. It will take some unwinding. And it'll probably take some tears. But this will come naturally. If it's who you are, then you do not have to try. You don't have to force yourself. It is always about a letting go, not a trying to get somewhere else. I would love to hear from any woman who listened to this podcast and had these concepts land or illuminate something for you. Please share with me in the comments on YouTube, through the contact page on infinitedevotion.com, or through Instagram. And I really thank you for listening to this episode of Dom Sub Devotion. We'll see you next week.